All right, so now you guys are live. The phone should be on Do Not Disturb, so it should be impossible for anybody to call me. So anyway, if you had seen the agenda for today, you would have known that the first 5 minutes were going to be spent watching a YouTube video to get us all excited about the course content. That was going to start at 10:55. We'll let it go for another couple minutes here while I get set up everything else, and then we'll talk about our expectations for the class. Yeah. I don't think this is the ad that I put in the thing that I put in the play. Oh, it's a stupid ad thing. Never mind. Let's skip the YouTube video. Are you guys all excited? Inspired to be here? What did you do to get ready for class today? What's your name? Nate. Nate, what did you do to get ready for class today? Woke up, got out of bed, dragged a comb across my... Wait, no. Wrong class. All right, so is that looking sort of at me? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, expectations for the class. All right, so I said that we will do an agenda for each class so you guys will know what's going on. It may help you in reviewing the video later. If you're like, when did he talk about that? Several years ago, you guys have filled out the course evaluation forms at WPI before. One of the questions on there is about organization of the class. And I always did really poorly on that question. I mean, I knew what I wanted to talk about. I was never really effective at communicating what I wanted to talk about to the students before I talked about it. And I guess time will tell if I was ever effective at communicating with the students while I was talking about it. But I always got really bad scores on that particular question on the course reviews. And I decided one term that I was going to beat that question. I figure on something like that, if this is one question you're concentrating on, you can always beat that one question. The whole rest of the class might fall apart. But I decided I was going to beat the organizational question. I was going to appear organized to my students for one term. But 2 weeks into that term, I realized I had to actually become organized if I was ever going to appear organized. And I work on that sometimes, but mostly I try to hire people to organize for me so I don't have to be organized. All right, so let's get back over here. So you may find that I don't follow the agendas very well. But if you go to professorbergstrom.com/ME3820 or 3820, eventually it will forward correctly to this page. Right now it forwards to the syllabus from a different term. But as soon as I get back to the office, I'll fix that. I figured out what the problem was just before we got over here. Didn't manage to fix it. This is the syllabus for this term. We've got, 3820 objectives. I need to go back one to get to your syllabus. Here's the syllabus for this term. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over stuff like this. Something that you can read. We're not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about in class. I just want to make sure that you know how to get to it. ProfessorBergstrom.com, ME3820. Objectives, we get a course description. Raise your hand if you've read the course description for this class. Be proud, raise them high. I can't see all the ones that are like, I don't know if you're scratching your nose or raising your hand over there. All right, so you've read the course description for this class. Do you have expectations for what you want to learn in this class? Anybody? Raise your hand if you have an expectation. I expect all the hands, right? Okay. You don't have any expectations? All right. So one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to talk about those expectations, yours and mine, as we go through the class. I'm going to get the information from the TAs. Ryan over here is one of our TAs for the class. We're going to get TA's information, contact information, office hours posted in here. You guys care about grading and stuff like that, right? You all have an expectation of getting a grade. So at the very end of the class, we'll talk about that today. Late submission of assignments. We're going to do homework due every Sunday. Occasionally, those homeworks will be due on different days from Sunday, pushed into the future, not the past, just to give you more time to work on those things. If for some reason you can't hand that in on time, that's okay. If you had, for example, a medical issue that prevented you from working on it, you just get me the information about that. Tell me about it. If you had an emergency, but not a medical emergency, um, I don't know, your apartment caught on fire, that would qualify. The death in the family and you went home for the funeral, that would qualify. Um, Forgot to set my alarm, doesn't qualify as an emergency. Just tell me what it is. You don't have to give me a whole bunch of detail. There's enough detail to convince me that you had an emergency. So if it's a private thing, it's okay. Um, and shit happens. So if you have to say oops once, that's okay too. But if you don't have a medical reason, an emergency, or if you're not using your oops, then for each day that an assignment is late, it's 10% of what the total grade could have been gets subtracted. So it'll get graded normally, and then we'll deduct points per day that the assignment's late. All right. Academic honesty, you guys all know about this, right? Yeah, it's in there. Multiple attempts. I might need to edit this. Yeah, I'm going to change this. This was my old policy. I have a new policy on multiple attempts on quizzes. If you want to do the quiz 58 times to try to get a better grade, do the quiz 58 times to try to get a better grade. At least you wanted to try to get a better grade, and that could make the quiz a learning experience. So disregard what it says here about multiple attempts. That's not true. I'll delete it in a moment. We get down here to schedule. We're going to try to stick to the schedule as well as possible. As I have lecture notes available for each of these days, there will be a link to the lecture notes here. That's where you get your agenda. Lecture notes. So my objective for this class is that we understand our objectives. Before class, you should study the syllabus. I didn't give you the chance to do that, so shame on me. You should jot down any questions you have arising from the syllabus. Since I didn't get you this information before class, that was tough for you to do. And be prepared for a discussion of 3 things that you want to know and understand before the course is over. So at this point, you should start considering 3 things that you want to know before the course is over. Let's get into the lecture slides. Talked about, we watched the video, right? This links to the syllabus, okay. Course description. Most of you said you'd read the course description. What's your first thought arising from the course description? What's your name? Mackenzie. Mackenzie, what's your first thought arising from the course description from this class? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. I forget your name. I'm supposed to know it though. Matt. Mackenzie, Matt. Okay.
Could be pretty broad, so I'm wondering how it can get.
Could be pretty broad. Anybody? What's your name over here? Kylie. Kylie, Mackenzie, Matt. Kylie, Mackenzie, Matt. Kylie, what? Do you have an opinion? First thoughts? Course description? We will do some coding and programming, but you don't have to know any of it before you got here today. I actually had last D term I taught this class, kid sitting right in the front row. I knew him. In fact, his father and I went to college together, so I really knew him. At the end of the first lecture, he got up and says, Professor Bergstrom, I'm not going to take this class. I was like, come on, why? He's like, well, I don't know how to do computer programming. It's like, you don't need to. He didn't take the class. He dropped it. You don't have to drop the class. It's not going to be that hard. So my first thought when I looked at this was, man, talk about written by committee. Let's cover everything that we could possibly need to cover in any manufacturing course in this one class, just in case nobody ever takes another manufacturing class again. That was my first thought when I read this course description. Key things here. It's intended to be an introductory course at some level, but we also, I mean, who's a senior? Who's not a senior? Okay, most of us are seniors, so introductory course would be pretty boring for you guys, right? It would be. I've seen seniors in introductory courses and they get bored quick. I don't want you guys to be bored. So we're going to ignore introductory course, but control systems, basic techniques, hands-on laboratories, robotics, wait a minute, we don't call it that anymore. Manufacturing laboratories, modeling analysis, machining processes, PLCs, automation, microcomputers, transducers, signal conditioning, closed loop. All right, we're not going to talk about that stuff. What we are going to talk about manufacturing automation. You need to understand some of this stuff to design the systems to do this, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. At one point, this class was taught by somebody that only knew how to teach a controls class. So all they ever talked about was that stuff when they taught the class. I don't know if I'm qualified to teach a controls class. I've implemented controls before, but that's not the same thing. So we're not going to spend a lot of time on that stuff. But course description, introductory course, control systems, basic techniques, hands-on laboratories. You guys know there's a lab class, right? You know we have lab tomorrow. We will have lab tomorrow. We'll meet same time, right? But it's an hour longer, 2 hours in lab. We'll meet in Washburn 107. Your schedule may say 105. We're going to meet in Washburn 107, though. Guarantee that. How many people? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13? Is there 15 people on the list?
15 this morning, yeah.
Okay. So if you're not here, sorry. Oh, I know. Somebody emailed me, said they weren't going to be here. So hope you're watching online. All right, but we will do lab tomorrow. First lab is who's made something on a CNC machine before? Anybody not? Good. First lab, we're going to give you a solid model, some stock material or a picture of the stock material. And by next Friday, we want, we're going to do labs in groups. So we're going to form groups too by tomorrow. You guys are going to work with your group. Each group, I think, what did we say, 10 pieces? 5 pieces? Yeah, there's some number. We'll tell you in lab tomorrow what the number is. But you're making little parts. You're going to manufacture those parts. So you're going to take the solid model, turn it into tool paths, bring the tool paths over the machine, set up the machine, make the part. There's not a lot of instructional steps involved with this lab. It's just the information. However, the TAs will be there to help, and maybe some ME100 PLAs will be around too to help with some of that stuff. So you guys will have a chance to demonstrate that you remember how to use a CNC machine. And if you've forgotten some steps, this is a good chance to spend a week and a half remembering them so that you can use some of those skills as we do the rest of the class. What do I expect? I expect you to come to class prepared. Who came to class prepared today? Who does not have a piece of paper or a pencil? You don't have a piece of paper or a pencil? Are you taking notes on your computer?
No, I didn't.
Okay. You have a method to take notes, okay? I once knew a guy that if you showed up to his class and you weren't prepared to take notes, he would make you leave. Why be in the classroom if you're not prepared to write down what he said? I don't know if I would do that. But I expect you to come to class prepared. And so this is prepared to learn something in particular. So I want you to think about what the class, that day's class is about before you come to the class. And be thinking about something that you want to learn that day so that you can maybe ask questions, things like that. I want you to be prepared to participate in class discussions. Class is super duper boring, especially for me, and that's what I care about, if you guys don't talk back to me. So I want you to be prepared to discuss the things that we're talking about in class, to disagree with me if needed. They say that if you ever find you're the smartest person in the room, that you're in the wrong room. And I don't want to be in the wrong room, so I expect that some of you are smarter than me. I may know more than you on certain topics, but if I could make a mistake, some of the things we'll be talking about may be based in opinion, and we need to have those interactions. We need to talk about those things. So I expect you to do those things. I want you to collaborate with your groups. I don't want people to sit in their little, you guys don't have cubicles. Who has a cubicle? Anybody? No. But you have a desk? You have like a spot in your room where you do your homework and stuff like that? Don't sit there by yourself when you're working on stuff here. Engineers don't work in a vacuum. I expect you guys to collaborate and work together in your groups on almost everything. There will be a comprehensive final exam the last week of the class. I do not expect you to collaborate on that, but we'll talk about that more as we get to it. Now, I want us to have fun, and I want you to get an A in the class. So if you're having fun, you will want to come to class and you will want to learn. If I'm having fun, I will want to come to class and want you to learn. And so let's see if we can work that out together. And who wants an A in the class? Perfect. The grade worksheets haven't come up yet, but I'll just fill everybody in with an A. My least favorite thing about teaching is the grading part, which is why we'll talk about the grading expectations later. But anybody have anything that they want to contribute at this moment? Questions from my expectations? Anything that's unclear? That, anybody? Matt, Mackenzie, Kylie, Matt. Was there anybody else I talked to? But I don't know your name. Nate? No, somebody said Nate already today. Nate, Matt, Mackenzie, Kylie. What's your name again? Dan. Dan. This is a good moment to form groups. Is it? No. Do this by ourselves. All right. Everybody's got a piece of paper or a computer, right? Write down what you expect to learn in this class. You have 5 minutes. It has music. And I'm just going to quickly go back and double check that I remember what the agenda said. What do you expect? We should be doing this at 9:13. And 17. Pretty good. Only 5 minutes behind. We have no live viewers. Let's see if I can set up a better shot. You done writing? What's your name? Alex. Mackenzie, Alex, Kylie, Matt, Nate. I'm I'm pretending like I got a system for remembering these names, but I'm just making it up. I'll be asking you your name every day. All right, so you got about a minute. If everybody's done writing, I'll stop the timer early. But what do what do you expect? Everybody done? All right, we'll stop the timer early. All right. Somebody I haven't picked on yet. What's your name? You guys are gonna have to sit next to each other for the rest of the term now. Ish. I mean, next to ish. Matt. Okay, Matt, come up here. Share with us your list. Bring your list. Bring your expectations. So what do you expect, Matt?
How to use a learning language for free.
What else?
How to probably what the process delay of
Okay.
how to do some motivation. But
All right. Is that it? Is Matt, right? All right. I guess you guys don't have to walk up here, but talk louder next time. I forgot your name. Dan. You didn't tell me, Dan. Not today, anyway. Dan, stand up. Tell me what you want to learn. If it's already on this list, you don't have to say it.
okay.
It's like sketch.
I also have the first one down, so I won't say that one.
Yep. Just anything you want to add.
I said I expect to learn how to optimize a machine process. So basically, like what cuts like to make when you're doing like.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Optimized machining process.
And then my last one is I expect to be challenged.
The challenge. All right. I challenge you to it. No. Just going back. Stand up. Say your name. What do you got that's not on this list?
Jam. And one thing I said that not always is automation of manufacturing processes.
Automate manufacturing processes. Processes. Kylie, stand up, say your name, and what's not on the list. All right, so we get this one again. You had some. You said you had learn a spree. Also, I'll make a little hashtag there. I guess hash mark. Anything else? We don't need to count the doubles. Okay, so talk about lean. See, we're early enough in the class that I can change what I'm going to talk about based on what you say. Stand up, say your name. What do you got that's not on the list?
Brian.
All right, Brian has nothing to contribute. Alex, stand up, say your name, and what you got that's not on the list. More in lab. I'm assuming you mean in like the machining labs, manufacturing labs, not the chemistry labs. Stand up, say your name, and what do you got that's not on the list? Utah. Okay. Alex Utah, Brian, Kylie, Dan. I got nothing. Yeah, James. Utah, go.
I want to do some case study and very application to like how the system really works in
We will do that. Um, Mackenzie, stand up, say your name. What do you got?
Hi, Mackenzie. One thing I have that isn't already up there is learning about common manufacturer common challenges and how do you optimize this overcome them, both on an individual and
You went. Your name was Matt. Say your name. What do you got that's not on the list?
the only thing I really have that's up there is how to learn more tools and tool sets that's pretty
So deep dive on Esprit. Stand up, say your name. What do you got?
I'm Dan, and you're one baby. I had like how you use more advanced features of this free.
I think we'll call that deep dive.
Okay.
But you can't see that, right?
I had the automated manufacturing process. My last one was how to write slash manually change free coding.
You're gonna like next week. Stand up, say your name. What do you got?
All right, I'm Vince, and I said how to do fourth and sixth flat fourth and fifth axis routine because cool, and how to use the industrial robot.
Say your name. What do you got?
I'm Nate, and I have just about everything. I kind of just want to become more advanced and
All right, we'll call that deep dive.
yeah, I also had able to work with my MCP partner more. I'm mechanical and I'm not.
I thought maybe you just needed like interpersonal skills because we could do a private session on that. No, there's a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie.
That, basically, like, I guess the only thing would be automation processes in S3.
Okay, automating a spree. Yeah, Ryan, what do you got? What are you reading? Wealth of Nations, okay. So this is blatantly reading in the back corner there. I saw you had the book when you left my office. All right. So this is the things that you guys expect to do. So I'll quickly review here. So we're absolutely, this is already on the agenda. We're going to spend weeks doing that. You will get a chance to do this while doing this, I think, and maybe a little bit while doing our first lab. You certainly get to do this in order to do this and this. We can create some opportunities to use the lathe. I think most of the stuff that we're going to do on machines, we were planning to mill in this class. The machining part of it isn't really the primary objective of the class. We use the machine tools and actually even at some level we're using the CAM software not for the purpose of learning to use the machine tools and learning to use the CAM software, but rather for the purpose of learning the content. And so we're going to talk about automating toolpath generation and stuff like that. We're going to spend a bunch of time on that in Esprit. So you have to have some basic knowledge of using Esprit before you can talk about how to automate the process in Esprit, right? But our focus is going to be more on the automation, although we've got a bunch of resources. If you need to get up to speed quickly, you can do that. Basic coding. So this is going to be tied in with that. We're gonna do some. You could use any Visual Studio product to write the code. But what we're going to be doing in our example problems is some Visual Basic stuff that's built right into Esprit. It's mostly conditional statements. If this, then do this. Do this until this happens, kind of statements like that. So it's pretty basic coding stuff that we'll do there, although you could use any Visual Studio product to access it. It turns out one of the big benefits of the CAM software Esprit is the fact that their API, their programming modules are available for you to use outside the software. So you could, if you wanted to, you could build your own interface and have it use Esprit to do all the back-end math and calculations for everything that you're doing, but you don't have to use the Esprit interface. One of the things people do in industry to utilize that isn't make their own CAM software, because that would be stupid. But they do have their own specialized things. So imagine you work at a company that makes a lot of parts that are very similar to each other. So, and we're talking about machining parts because we're using CAM software as our example. but a lot of parts that are very similar to each other, but each one gets customized a little bit. Maybe it's got a serial number engraving is pretty easy to just automate, but maybe each customer gets to choose some slightly different shapes or something like that. I'm trying to think of a good example where that comes up. Or you work for a valve manufacturer, and you have a bunch of different sizes of valve bodies, and then you get a new design for a new valve body. So they'll automate this such that you can just drag the CAD file, the SolidWorks file or whatever you're using, drag it into a box, click go. It automatically creates the toolpath, sends it to the machine tool that you said you were going to use, and no one ever has to look at that at that side of it. The little box that you dragged it into, it knows what tools are in stock, which machine tools are available, and how to make the correct tool path for each of those things. So we're going to be setting up some automation like that. Optimized machining processes, we'll talk about that in class. You want to be challenged, we'll figure that out. We're going to do a whole section of the class where we talk about automating manufacturing processes, which will involve doing case studies where we look at some real automation tasks and figure out how we're going to solve those problems. So you get a chance to do all those things. I can certainly talk about lean manufacturing, so I'll add that into one of the lectures. Common challenges in manufacturing. I think we're going to talk about a lot of that, especially when we get to the automation stuff. Fourth and fifth axis machining. We are currently not planning to do fourth and fifth axis machining as part of the class, but we may work that in somehow, or it could be something that you do with your group as part of the class. And we will be using at least one of the industrial robots during the class. So that looks good. All right. We have good expectations. What time is it? 33. What are we doing now? Hey, look at that. We made up the time. Review grading. Oh, but you guys can't see this. If I'm looking at this and it seems like I think you can see it, you should point out to me that you can't see it because I don't have eyes that direction. Let's fix that. So we're going to review grading. All right. So grading stuff is in the syllabus, which is back one click from here. So here's our schedule. Here's my initial plan of the things that we're going to do. Note group presentations here this week. It'll be about this case study that we start over here. We are going to talk about manufacturing process variables, NC code stuff here. Your first lab, right, this is tomorrow. Your first lab, you have 1, 2, 3 lab periods to finish it. That's due next week. You may need more time. You should judge early in the lab if you're going to need more time to finish that. That's machining those parts we'll talk about tomorrow morning. Lab 2, we're going to be doing, this is where we're going to be doing this NC code programming by hand, and we're also going to be looking at the part of the CAD or the CAM software that takes the interior tool list or toolpath listings that they have inside the CAM software and translates it into the code that the machine can read. And so we'll do that this week. Here we're going to be doing manufacturing economics. This lab will be 2 that week. Then you have 2 weeks to do the lab where we're automating in a spree, robot lab, and programmable logic controllers down here. And pretty much every machine tool in the world, somewhere inside it has a programmable logic controller. I would say pretty much every factory automation system in the world is controlled and run by PLCs. Some of the subcomponents may be using other microprocessors and stuff like that, but PLCs do make the manufacturing world go around, so we're going to spend about 2 weeks working on that in lab. There will be an oral examination. Remember I said I want you guys to participate in class? There will be an oral examination, and there will be it's not on the schedule here, but there's a comprehensive final exam that's going to be due on the last week of the term. Let's go up to how we're going to calculate grades. Because this is important to you guys, right? I did mention it's my least favorite part of the whole thing. It's calculating grades. If I could just give everybody an A and then have the people that want to learn show up and learn, that would be better for me. I don't know that they would fire me if I did that. It's probably not worth the risk. So, all right, so homework. I said we're going to have 7 homework assignments due, 1 due every Sunday. Some of those dates may get pushed to later in the week, depending on the assignment and what you have to do to complete it. Almost all of those will be done in a group setting. So I will expect you to have at least communicated with your group. I don't care if you do a Zoom call, if you sit in the same room, if you text each other back and forth a whole bunch of times, but I expect you to have communicated with your group before somebody in the group hands in the assignments. Um, those homeworks are going to be about 35% of the grade. So that's you get some feedback every week on how you're doing in the class, because every week you got to hand in one of those. We've got lab exercises. There's going to be 5 lab exercises. We're going to make the parts. The parts we're going to make are T-nuts. You guys know what T-nuts are? The little nuts that slide in the bed of the machine tool so you can screw bolts down to hold stuff to the machine tool. We're having you guys manufacture T-nuts. Not because it's cheaper than buying T-nuts. It would be way cheaper just to buy the T-nuts. But it gives you a chance to make something that is made in production quantities that has some value. And we keep the T-nuts. We're going to keep using them. You may actually be holding your fixturing down with T-nuts that were made in the previous 3820 lab. But it gives you a chance to get all those 3-axis machining skills down. The first lab is T-nuts. Second lab is NC code. Third lab is automating a spree. Fourth lab is robots. And fifth lab is, I just said it, PLCs. Got it. Get the exam, that's 20% of the grade. And participation. So participation is going to be graded based on the quality and quantity of your interactions in class. On class discussion forums, so you could skip all the classes, but be very active on the discussion forum and have good, precise, valuable comments and feedback, and you can get a high participation grade. I said we have group presentations for our case study. Those presentations of the case study are going to be graded as participation. The written report from the case study is graded as homework. So the written report will be due on a Sunday, but those presentations, and when we do those presentations, I'm not just looking at the group that's presenting, but I'm looking at the feedback and the questions from the class. Discussion forum quality, and peer and personal evaluations. You guys are being in groups. You're going to have a chance each week to evaluate your own performance in the group and the performance of your peers in the group. And so all that will average out to be the participation grade. What time we got? 40. I kind of like the agenda thing, but I got to get it like printed out so that I can just glance at it without having to switch to the other window. Who do we say we're going to talk about next week? Anybody remember? Let's go back up to our schedule. So next week, we're going to talk about the things that you have to do to make a part. And we're going to use, for our example, CNC machining. You guys all know why we use CNC machining, right? Alex, why do we use CNC machining as our example? So people at WPI may tend to have experience with it. That's a valuable reason. We have access to plenty of CNC machines in order to facilitate helping people do the learning here at WPI. It's also still the most impactful manufacturing process in the world. There's nothing that you could buy that is probably more than 3 steps in its process of getting to you from a CNC machine. So the Formica top on the top of this desk, for example, was not made with a CNC machine, but a CNC machine was used to make the components in the machine that made the Formica top. And so they're used. Is the right word ubiquitously? Is that the right word? They're like all over the place. They drive manufacturing, so that's another reason that we use it. We're going to talk about NC code, so that's the code that the CNC machines themselves read. And we're going to do some manual programming in NC code. For the most part, engineers don't need to write NC code by hand. Although it's amazing how often when you go into industry, you see that the person programming the machine is still writing that NC code by hand. When WPI first got the CNC machines in 2001, I was invited to go to the training to learn how to use them. It was a 3-day training. It was at the distributor. This was pretty cool for me because I was a graduate student then. And I got a chance to go get training on these CNC machines. I was thinking, I am going to make all kinds of cool stuff when I come back from that training because I'm going to have access to the CNC machines. I'm going to know how to use them. That was pretty cool. We spent about 3 days, 3.5 days, in a room, sitting around a conference table where the instructor, well, he started out with teaching us trig because these machines move point to point typically. And so you got to know if I'm here and I want to be here and I want to remove the material in between there, how do I get to that next point? So his typical customer is a machinist that maybe hasn't studied trig for a while. So he did that, and then we learned how to do this point-to-point programming. And we learned how to do all this NC code. And I was about halfway through the first day, I had my billion-dollar idea. I said, oh my God, I am going to be so rich. Because I'm like, almost everything that we're doing in here, I could write a computer program that could do that for you. And I invented CAM software in that class. Because he did not mention the existence of CAM software through the whole class. Well, it turns out I was 20 years too late. People had invented CAM software before me. But you ever have one of those moments in class where you know that you've discovered something? Another one that happened to me actually was a WPI classroom. May have been this building. The class, I can't remember the title of the class, but the topic of the class was boundary value problems. You guys know boundary value problems? You draw a box around whatever process or something's going on, and now you can control what the inputs are and know what the outputs are. And I'm sitting in that class, and I think we were modeling a nuclear reactor. I think we were. We were modeling the heat transfer from the fuel pellet out to the outside of the containment in the nuclear reactor. There's a lot of stuff going on there, right? And I keep thinking to myself, if I just make the boxes smaller and smaller, I could converge on the true answer, not just an estimate of the answer. And I invented finite element analysis. Turns out somebody had done that before me too. But you get those moments. All right, NC code next week. 5 minutes left. There's something for the last 5 minutes. Oh, this was the last 5 minutes. Next week, we might be done. But I had a funny story I wanted to tell you. And I decided to look at the thing before telling you the funny story. What were we just talking about at the end of grading? No, I got nothing. No more funny story. It went away. Do you have a funny story? Because we got a moment. Oh, yeah, good question. We should form the groups right now because we have time, right? If it's possible, let's form the groups right now. Groups of 3. There's 2 people not here right now? Yeah, but maybe I miscounted. Who doesn't have a group yet? Who else doesn't have a group yet? How many people are in the room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's not evenly divisible by 3. Who doesn't have a group yet? Who's not in a group yet? Who's in your group? Nate. Okay. You guys can go. Who's in your group? You guys can go. Who's in your group? The three of you, right? Yeah, somebody doesn't have a group over here, right? You don't have a group yet.
Actually, I did this.
You're not you're not in the class. Are you going to stay? Sure thing. You do need to be in a group if you're going to do the class activities. But you can talk to Ryan about how to get in the group. Hey Ryan, you gotta walk back to my office with me, and you got to make me fix the broken link on the webpage. And don't walk away. Stand behind me until we've observed that it's fixed on another computer. Oh, I'm not. I'm supposed to just log off, right? Yeah.
So actually, I'm a student doing research about this now.
Okay.
And she said I'm in student 11. I help you help with the lab. So do you want the TAs from this semester?
Okay, we should talk to Professor Sisson because I thought we had TAs.
Oh, we had talked. So actually, I don't get paid this semester. I just want.
Okay, so you're going to learn how to be a TA in the future.
Yeah.
Got it.
And
so yeah.
maybe from next semester.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, talk to Ryan and Jialong
Okay.
to coordinate that. Perfect.
So do you think I need to be in this class or another class?
This is the class that has TAs.
Yeah. So I.
Well, all right. I'll talk to Professor Liang and Sisson also.
Okay.
Okay. Figure out what they wanted also.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it sounds good.
Thank you.
We could probably end the live video too.
Okay, that's fine. Do we have another?